in Southeast Asia for Airbnb. He used to work in the corporate world, but traded that in for the startup life at Airbnb, not only because he now gets to wear jeans to work, which honestly is one of the best perks ever, but also because he believes that Airbnb can help make rich travel experiences accessible to Asians. A frequent traveler himself, JJ has been to over 30 countries and looks forward to adding several more pins to his map. So without any further ado, let's give a huge Goab Geek Beachgoer round of applause to JJ Chai.
Thanks, Zach. Cool. Hi, everyone. Anyone here has heard of Airbnb? Anyone has heard of Airbnb? Decent amount. Anyone's traveled on Airbnb? Or is traveling on Airbnb right now? Cool. Not too bad. Some work there. So the topic of my talk today is doing business in Asia. Pretty broad, if you think about it. So I'll just try to relate this in terms of my experience in trying growing Airbnb in Southeast Asia over the past year. So we set up in Asia, in Singapore, a year ago, and we've been growing the business here since then. So 3 things. One, in terms of growing the business in Asia, the first thing to think about is where. When you say Asia, it actually encapsulates 48 different countries in Asia. And if you think about from an Airbnb perspective, in terms of locations you can travel to, markets you can travel, you can get travelers out of, there's hundreds and hundreds of different markets. So the first thing that you do in Asia is to figure out and prioritize which are the markets and figure out what's the granularity of the markets. What you have as a startup, like an Airbnb for example, is that you can't have entire divisions for Asia. You can't have a marketing division for Asia. You can't have a sales division for Asia. You can't have a business development set up for Asia. You can't have a product team for Asia. What you have at best is like 1 or 2 guys that can cover 1 country, 2 countries, and you need to prioritize based on that. So what we did at Airbnb was really figure out like which are the markets that are actually most important for us. And we decided also what type of granularity was most important. So this was relatively simple, just purely from the perspective of figuring out like where the tourism flows, which markets are important. What was interesting is that like we quickly figured out that the country level was not the right granularity. So when we develop our business in Asia, we never think of it as like, oh, let's focus on Philippines, or let's focus on China, or let's focus on Korea. Right? Our focus is always now on the market level. So we focus on Tokyo, not Japan. We focus on Boracay, not Philippines. We focus on Bali, not Indonesia. And the reason for this is simple. One, tourism destinations are by its nature city focused. So people don't go to Indonesia, they go to Bali, right? And secondly, it's a strong business culture for us, really around finding a small set of people who really, really like your product, rather than finding a broad mass of people who somewhat tolerate your product. So the way our founder puts it is that like it's better to have 100 people love your product than to have thousands of people who somewhat like your product, right? When we first started as Airbnb, that market for Airbnb was New York, right? So we got our first 50 hosts, first 50 people who opened up their homes in New York, and that was where the business first started. Similarly here in Asia, right? We are based in Singapore, but Singapore isn't one of our biggest markets. It's not our focus markets. Our focus markets, quite recently actually, Boracay has been one of the markets simply because there's more demand here than what supply we have. So in the past 2 months, we sent a team of two to 3 people here to actually grow the supply in this market. So we actually have 400 listings now across Boracay, just simply as a destination for people who are searching on our site for Boracay. So that's the first point around like doing business in Asia. What we quickly learned is like, get the granularity right. It's not by countries, it can be by market. 2, second corollary of that is really around the fact that like, where you base your business and which markets are most important for you can be 2 different things, right? So we are based in Singapore simply because you can get the talent that you need, or for tax reasons, or simply for freedom, for, it's an easy hub for traveling to different markets. But that does not mean that we focus our efforts in Singapore. In fact, right now, we only have one person focusing on the Singapore market. Second thing around doing businesses in Asia that we've learned, really around understanding market gaps. So I think Robin just now spoke something about T-shaped employees. So one of the first things you realize coming to Asia when you have so many markets and so many countries is that like you can't have specialists, right? So you quickly learn that you need to have T-shaped employees, meaning that you need to figure out how to stack your team in such a way that the guy comes in with a breadth of knowledge really around marketing, sales, business development, so they can do a little bit of each, but they're strong in one. And then stacking our team such that when you add them all up, right, you have a team that has strengths in each one of those pillars for that market. So I can't, for example, hire a full Thai marketing team and a full Thai product team and a full Thai business development team, but I can have two very entrepreneurial T-shaped guys, one of them very strong in business development, one of them killer at sales. Combine those two, go out in the market and focus, say, if our focus market is Phuket, they go in and kill it in Phuket. Simply because one guy can just go in, do the deals in Phuket, the other guy does the sales, getting supply, getting travelers in that market. So building the right set of talents to complement the team and building it in a sense of having T-shaped employees that stack up well, have complementary skills, is a second criteria, and learning that I found. The third element really is around what you actually do. So what we do in the markets, we don't have a playbook, right? So in some companies, Uber, for example, Uber has a very clear playbook. They have this, they hire someone, they just give them a playbook and say, here, you're a community manager for Singapore, you want to grow the market and uses it for Uber, you just do these 10 things. Very instructional, you just buy all the taxis, you give out all the coupons, you partner with these type of companies, this is where you get your the drivers, da-da-da. For Airbnb, we don't really go by that. Our playbook is basically a no playbook strategy. Essentially, we let them become entrepreneurs. So this is a bit unorthodox, but it's also very much in line with our core company values, really around being a serial entrepreneur. So what we do then, instead of giving specific playbook instructions, we provide two things. We provide one, very clear objectives. That means that we say, hey, the objective for Philippines or for Boracay is 400 listings, 150 hosts, and we want at least half of them to be reviewed. So that's about providing very clear objectives. Second is about making very clear what are the boundary conditions. And this comes with just having a strong company culture. When we hire, we make sure that they understand what Airbnb is about, making sure that they will know by themselves what is not the right thing to do when they actually go out to the market. So we say, are you allowed to, would they say cold call the person, or would they partner with brands that don't really match with Airbnb? We don't have rules. We don't have things on paper that says you're not allowed to do A, B, and C. You're only allowed to do 1, 2, 3. But through the values, it makes it very clear. Everyone knows what is the right thing to do by themselves. So strong values and very clear objectives. And the playbook is no playbook, right? Anything from, so one example here in Boracay, for example, my team just said hey, there's this Geeks on the Beach thing. I want you to go in and speak so that we can do a partnership, so that we can get, we can tell the host that we're doing a partnership here in Boracay, so that we can send some demand over and build the market. So I said okay, good idea. I'll spend 2 days on Boracay. Sounds like a good idea to me. So I'm here. In another market, for example, we could be partnering with Uber, a taxi company, or completely different things. So on the ground, my market teams are actually doing very, very different things for their market, and it's completely bottom up simply because they are the ones who know the market, right? And it can't be done top down, and that's not the way we want to do it. So 3 things around doing business in Asia, very generic when you think about it, but these are the sort of 3 that come to mind when I think about it, and I'll open up the questions after this. One is really around where, so granularity in the market, which markets, and whether it's country or whether it's actually cities, to who, which is the team that you're going to build, T-shaped guys that complement each other, and 3, the what, no playbook. Especially if you're a startup, you know, might not make sense for you to have a very strict set of rules for your guys to grow in each other's markets. So those are the 3 things I have. I'd like to just open up for questions, I guess. Any questions? It's an extremely broad topic, but if there's any questions, just shout out and I'll take it. No? Sorry? Yeah. So the question was like, how about listings? How are the listings doing in Boracay, in Palawan, and Bohol? Is that right? Are there listings? Yeah. So naturally, we're as a platform, there are people who list their space in Bohol, in Palawan, and so on, but they're nowhere in the same scale as Boracay. Simply because we've actually gone and worked in the market. When we first started, there was about 100 listings about 3 months ago. There's now about 400 different options for you across Boracay, right? And the next question following that would be, when do we actually go to work on Bohol or Palawan and so on? That's internally guided by our data, right? We can see who are the guys looking for space in different parts of the world. So they type in Palawan, people will type in Palawan or type in Bali or type in Tagaytay. We can know by that frequency, like how many people are searching for certain places, and we send a team there to sort of address that market, right? So Boracay was very clearly one of the markets where we had demand at the point in time, which is why I sent a team there. Yeah, so this is an interesting part. As a startup, it's quite difficult to be very comprehensive about training. So the training comes in sort of like, hi, welcome to number 1. Here's the stuff you need to do. Ask questions. It's not great. It's not a great thing. But like what you do then is just to set it up such that there's a very clear go-to people for different topics, right? So in the organization, as you start, you make sure that like there's enough go-to people over time. When I started up in Singapore 1 year ago, literally it was just me and a country manager of Northeast Asia, and we just made it clear that like that guy is great at BD, I'm great at doing more of analytics and marketing, and come to each one of us for any kind of topics. And over time we sort of recruit, and the first batch then becomes better at certain specific things that when you talk about the T, they become deeper and deeper in the T, better than I am on different topics, right? But the base requirement is that they know the market, which is the most important thing. Everything else is learnable, really. It's not rocket science to make a sales pitch, to try to do marketing or try to discuss business partnerships. But you get better at it over time as you build a team, which is why you try to look for, like I said, the T-shaped guy. Like this guy will come in, he may not know anything about, say, PR, right? But he's a killer in sales. Like he can sell ice cream to Eskimo kind of guy. I'm getting him on board, and he will tell the guy who can do PR how to do that, and the PR guy can then teach the other side, like, this is how you do PR, right? So which is why when you start off with a skeletal team, you try to make sure you're stacking up the skills in the right way. Cool. Any last questions? Otherwise, I'll be here. Feel free to come by and ask me any questions. I can be much more specific about doing businesses in country X rather than Asia. Asia is like 48 countries, especially Southeast Asia. So come by and happy to share my perspectives. Thanks.
Great, that was awesome. All right, our next speaker today, his name is Jaideep. He is the managing director of NCR Philippines. He's currently leading the engineering center with a team of over 750 professionals. His expertise is in establishing and running the offshore development centers in low-cost regions. He's proficient in developing and streamlining systems with a proven ability to enhance operational effectiveness, meet operational goals. Next page. And he has a complete understanding of the business rules and processes of commercial organizations. So with a big round of applause, let's welcome up Jaideep.
Hi, thank you. First of all, big round of applause for all the Filipinos here. You guys have been wonderful hosts. You know, you have this unique ability to embrace all the foreigners here. And people like me feel very comfortable staying here. So thank you very much. Second thing, Jack, I have to tell you I'm shit scared. I don't know, man, how do you do that? I can't do it. Wow. I thought I was fit before coming here. And now I don't feel that. Another reason I'm shit scared, somebody took all my business cards and I don't know where are they. I hope they're not on the beach doing all the funny stuff and tomorrow somebody's after me. All right, anyways, I'm going to talk a bit about outsourcing in Asia. Before that, I'll take you through a bit about my background. Okay, so a bit of introduction. I started out as a software programmer in 1990. Yes, I'm kind of for those guys who understand Visaya, I'm a Tambuk Tiguang. Yeah, I've been working since 1990. By the way, for those of you who don't understand what is Tambuk Tiguang, Tambuk means fat, Tiguang means old. I started out my journey at a salary of $20 a month. I worked with companies like Benetton, yes, the garment company, Unilever in India to learn business. I worked in an outsourcing industry, worked with a company called HCL Technologies in India. And that's where my romance, I call it romance with NCR, started. It was in 1998. I worked with Hewitt Associates, and I joined NCR in year 2005. I helped them set up an IT center in India. And earlier this morning, somebody was talking about belief, and it's about what you really want. I've seen it. In year 2008, I said, I really want to go to Philippines. And in 2011, I got the opportunity. I don't know how, and it happens. So right now, I'm managing a team of wonderful people. 750, Jack, was slightly older number. We've got around 950 people. This place is growing fast. Now, you must be wondering, looks like very corporate profile. What am I doing between Geeks? So let me share a bit about myself. I like to surround myself with great people like yourself. So that's why I'm here. I would like to, I love to break the rules and shake things up. Okay? I'm a maker, and I have a lot of free ideas. Free ideas. Innovation is my passion, and I call it Funovation. And I like to solve real-life problems by applied innovation. I don't want to be the next generation rocket scientist. I want to pick up what's available, apply it, and solve a real-life problem. And dreams are the reason of my sleepless nights. Last night I slept at 3:30, by the way. And for me, legacy matters. In the end, what matters is who will cry when you die. So with my team, I want to beat the best of the best. So I think I'm a geek. Do you agree? Thank you. Okay, so I have a very different view about outsourcing, and there are different reasons why people outsource. Some people say they want to have cost arbitrage. I want a cheap labor. People say, I'm there because it's 1/3 of the cost of other countries, and there's a lot of talent pool. Some people say, we want to delegate low-value, mundane tasks to enable high-cost people to focus on so-called core business. And then some people say, I want to create a backup for spreading risk. You know what? I'm going to show you some data here. If you see this chart talks about the world population prospects between now, between now here, that's 2010, to 2100. If you really see, the top one here is talking about how the population is going to grow in less developed countries versus some of the mature market, which we call developed countries, We have about 1 million, $1.5 billion people living in developed countries now, and it's going to stay flat. And look at this. Look at least developed countries. When things get slowed down here a bit, this goes up. So where is the market? Where is the market? Look at another. This is a report from IMF. In 2012, they said all the areas here, the dark ones, are going to grow 10% or more. All the one here are going to grow at 6 to 10%. And these areas are going to be low and negative growth. So I'm going to give you, so I work for NCR. I found this data easy, so I'm sharing it. This is a projection of ATM shipments between year 2013 and year 2015. See what is happening. Top 4 mature markets, they're saying they will ship slightly less than 300,000 ATMs. Look at top 4 emerging markets, about more than double. Look at China. China is almost double the size of US demand. It's almost slightly equal to the size of top 3 emerging markets for ATM industry. So the key consideration to me should be, where is the future market? Who understand the need of the future market? Is it people sitting in US or Canada or so-called current developed places who understand the needs of the market? Or is it somewhere else? And how about to be in the market, develop for the market, and sell in the market? And therefore, instead of outsourcing, I would like to call it something called global sourcing. Okay? Outsourcing is probably, to me, it's a negative term. We got to look at the opportunities here. So people who come here for low-cost, mundane tasks, you'll struggle. You got to move up. You'll see attrition if you do that, because people would like to be engaged. So let's talk about what are the success strategies. Now, this is based on certain of my experience over the years. And so first thing is support from top or trust is the key. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work. If you really want to do it, you spend time, plan what you want, document your long-term vision for these locations. You're not coming here for short-term work. If you're coming for short-term work, probably you're going to waste time and get frustrated and return back from here. The important thing, most ignored thing, people ignore recruiting. The first thing I would do if I need to go somewhere and start, I will get hold of top recruiter of that place. Because that's the guy who's going to get you the superstars and make you successful. Another big thing, it's been talked several times since yesterday, get a local leader. Get someone who can be trusted and who can sell your dreams to people who are going to work with you. Otherwise, unless you sell the dream, you're hiring the machines. You got to work, you got to get people who are passionate about success and who think like you. Hire the team of superstars, never hire cheap labor. This is another big learning for me over the years. If you try and hire somebody cheap, not going to work. So I would say look at the market data, look at what's the salary, pay a bit of premium, and then go with it. And then recognize the difference in exposure. Sometimes it's misunderstood as maturity. So somebody here don't understand there's a business solution that's in the US and people are talking of basics here. They say, you know what? We used to do that in 60s. What are you talking about? But remember, where's the market? That's not stupid. That's not maturity. They are looking at what they see. So if you want them to work for markets overseas, you need to get them exposure to those markets. Now, let's look at something else. Next stage could be you got to learn to share your vision and let the local team come up with a roadmap. Help them drive the objectives. Help them create a connection to their objectives to your vision. If you do that, they will understand how they're contributing day to day to their work and set the clear expectations. What do you really want? The difference here is, unlike many other countries, there's a cultural difference. People here would like to know, and you got to challenge that over and over again. A lot of times, people don't comfortable asking about it, so set the expectation, tell them it's okay to ask questions, tell them it's okay to fail, and that'll work. Getting business knowledge is very, very important. Show them how do they contribute to overall vision every day. If they don't see it, it won't work. I'll give you a small story. Once a big there was a big work happening, there was a big factory being constructed, and somebody went and visited that place to see how's the employee engagement. And he asked a person who was cutting the wood, hey, what are you doing? You know what? I need to work. I need to make a living. I need to get money out of it, so I'm cutting the wood, and this company will pay me money, and that's it. That person said, okay, great. Let me meet the next person. What are you doing? He says, well, I'm creating a door for this room. He said, better, at least you know what you want to do. And then he meets a third person. He says, you know what, I'm really excited. I'm creating something for the community here. It will generate thousands of jobs here. And this person was fully connected. 10 years later, the third person was still in the company. First two people were not there. So that's what you got to do. You got to tell them what you're trying to do. You got to tell them what they will do for you by the work they do every day. And that's very, very important. Have patience. Give them chance to get exposure. Create knowledge sharing opportunities. You got to do that. You got to get them out, let them travel, let them see the world, let them fail. And then focus on innovation. That's very, very important. Because I believe innovation really engages people. 2 years back when I came here, slightly more than 2 years, my attrition was 33%. And everybody said it's normal here. I said that's not right. It has to be low. Now we run on a single-digit attrition. Our number of ideas that are patentable are gone up by 250%. And that too, when I came in, I was told this place doesn't have skill. They can do low-end mundane jobs. That's not true. So you got to challenge people. You got to show them the vision where you want to be. Today, my team leads the global hardware engineering team on number of approved ideas for patents. Now that's in Cebu. So who says Cebu education is not good or we don't have talent here? There are challenges, but that can be done anywhere in the world. And then get them ownership. This is the most important piece of the puzzle. Don't give them tasks. Give them the ownership. Give them what you got to achieve. If you try and give them one task, it's not going to happen. You got to give them ownership. And that will create difference, because if you give tasks, they think I'm not as important as somebody sitting overseas. You got to learn or recognize that they are your team members. Ask for their opinion, recognize the cultural difference. That's very, very important. A lot of times people have great ideas, they don't talk. So you got to remind them, constantly ask them, especially in what we call as a culture in Asia, and it takes time to change it. So communication is important. You got to talk to them. It's very, very important to continue to talk to them, otherwise somebody else will talk to them and they'll leave you. Engage and enjoy. Enjoy is very important. Celebrate the success with them. Be part of them. What we do once in a month dress down day. Everybody comes to office in shorts and we enjoy. We color our faces and we just click pictures and post it on Chatter and best picture gets an award. It's a simple ideas like that. It doesn't cost you money, but it engages people. They like working with each other. Support them during difficult period. That's very, very important. If they fail, sit with them, help them, learn how can they do better, or teach them, and realize attrition is reality. A lot of people want to have zero attrition. Please remember, it's not going to happen. What you can change is really how do you manage your attrition. So have very strong knowledge management practices to minimize the impact. And then another attrition management reality is knowing your superstars. If you know your superstar, hang on to them. Don't let them leave for whatever you do. If you let them go, you're leaving your core. And then, yes, it's all about people. It's really all about people. It will work. And it's irrespective of location. I think being in Asia or anywhere else for outsourcing, it's not outsourcing, it's global sourcing, and it's for the opportunities that these markets present. There's an interesting chart I'm going to show you. This was a research done somewhere in year 2011, 2012. It was a global innovation maturity model. What it said, it classified the companies into 5 stages. Stage 0 was called home biased. That means R&D was concentrated in developed markets for these kind of companies. Stage 1 was something called globalization. Now, these companies did a good job in giving tasks to people. Take this task, finish it, return it to me. You don't own anything, don't ask question. I don't want to waste time with you, and I'll work with you. Next stage is localization. What these guys do, they did a good job in training on global products, gave a little bit of liberty for these companies or local centers, and they started changing. They started modifying the global systems to suit the local requirement, which was better. And then stage 3, or stage actually 4, is local innovation, where these teams could do innovation on their own from scratch till end. And that's where you can really, really leverage the knowledge of the potential market that can come to you. And then the last stage is the distributed innovation. I don't know if this is really needed, but in my personal view, you have teams in US, you have teams in those markets, and those people can take care of their side of development. But it's always better to have seamless teams across the globe. And this stage is basically anybody, anywhere in the market can develop product for any other market. Now, the line here, the blue line, is probably the current stage for most of the companies. Most of the companies are falling here. Between now and 2015, this is where the shift is going to be. So a lot of companies are trying to get into local innovation, local products stage. And I think that's a need. That's what we got to look at. Think ahead and stop treating these centers as a local task-oriented centers. Any questions? That's it from me.
All right, any questions? Any questions? Hands up, hands up. First hand.
Do you have the revenue numbers for the ATMs that you're shipping to developing countries compared to developed countries? I mean, are these the same products? Or
I'll be honest, I do have, but I won't be able to share it with you. Sorry.
Okay. But are these the same products, or are these different products?
They can be multiple products. Can be multiple products.
And you think the opportunity is still bigger in terms of revenue in developing
I'll give you one
countries?
simple example. In India, ATM market has really changed. The government came up, or Ministry of Finance came up with an RFP where they said they don't want banks to own the ATM. They came up with a concept called white label ATMs. So what happened? These companies need to own the ATM, and people will go and use the ATM, and the companies will get charged from the bank for each transaction. So there are different models that are in discussion, and I think that's the future. It's going SaaS way, and that's how the products are going to look like. That's my personal view. All right, thank you.
Other questions? Let's get one more good question. Come on, guys. Anything good? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. In case you have any questions, please feel free and talk to me. I'll be around. Thank you.
Big round of applause as he walks off the stage. Woo! All right, for our last speaker for the afternoon, and if you guys still haven't turned in your top 3 learnings, now there's a few more you can add. Make sure you drop them off up front. His name is Adric. He's a substitute for the other previously scheduled speaker, so I don't have his bio ready, but he is going to be talking about the guide to growth hacking for startups. So Adric, if you could please come on up here. Here we go. A big round of applause as he comes onto the stage. Woo!
G'day everyone. My name's Adric Schroeders. I'm the Regional Director of Engineering for Freelancer.com. Thanks. So basically, I want to give a bit of a talk today about, it's going to be primarily about how to grow a startup into a business, basically. With Freelancer.com, we've got a very unique perspective on a lot of this, where basically Freelancer.com is a startup. We were a startup. We started only a few years ago, and we've been able to grow to international success. And at the same time, we have also, the nature of our business allows us to get a good view into other startups and what other people are doing in the area, and also be able to help startups and what they're doing. So at first, I'm just going to talk a bit about our company and about how freelancer.com can help your companies and your startups and get you off the ground. And then I'll talk a bit about how freelancer.com has been able to get such dramatic growth in such a short amount of time, as well as other companies, and how you can try and apply this sort of methodologies to your own companies. So basically what we are, freelancer.com is the global labor exchange. Basically, we allow people to hire freelancers to get work done for whatever it may be. So basically, you can go on our site, post a simple job, and get someone else to do it for a fraction of the price as trying to get someone locally, or that sort of thing. So basically, we provide the productivity tools to assist those with a spark of an idea to turn it into reality. So a lot of the time, I've noticed quite a few of the startups here, we're talking about how you really need to try and find the right software engineers. You need to find the right talent to let you be able to produce your products and get it off the ground. So sometimes your startup team, you'll get a good web designer, you'll get a back-end database person, you'll get your marketing person, but then all of a sudden, you realize, oh shit, my company doesn't have a logo. So rather than trying to hire someone specifically to get you a logo, you can just post a job on our site and get that outsourced easily. One of the other great things is it allows people with very low incomes to be able to earn money where otherwise they wouldn't be able to find the work locally. Such as the Philippines, which is one of our larger growing user bases at the moment. So basically, freelancer.com started in 2009. Basically, in 2009, our CEO saw another company called GetAFreelancer.com that had been around for a little while doing the same sort of business idea, and he thought, wow, that's a fantastic idea. But he realized that none of the people in this space were really doing it as well as he thought it could be done. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard of other similar companies such as Odesk and Elance. They were also around at this stage, but we sort of realized that we could do this better. So the same thing that a lot of the other guys were talking about yesterday is the sense of you don't have to come up with a brand new, fantastic whiz-bang idea to be able to make your startup work. You just need to be able to execute it. So that's what happened. So in 2009, Matt Barry, the CEO, bought GetAFreelancer.com. At that stage, there was 500,000 users, so 500,000 users. 4 years ago to now, we now have 9 million users as of yesterday. We just reached our 9 million user mark over 4 years. Yes, it's pretty impressive. And we only just finished getting our designers to make the 8 million user banner to put on our site. Next thing we know, we reached 9. We actually haven't quite reached 5 million projects posted. We're at like 4.96 or something, but close enough, I rounded it up. So basically, through our site, we've done just under $50 billion worth of projects have been posted on our site. 15 billion pesos worth of projects have been posted on our site. And this is just over like a very short amount of time. Specifically in the Philippines, just recently we reached over 400,000 Filipino users on our site, half of which have joined us within the last 12 months. So the user base is growing quite substantially, and 95% of those users are freelancers. And in the last year, the Filipino freelancers have earned $1 million, so that's 40 million pesos, brought into the Philippines economy through our site. So that's just a good way to indicate how we're helping the Philippines and how you guys can use our site for that sort of stuff as well. I think at the moment, some of the larger things getting done through Filipino freelancers, we have graphic design is actually one of the bigger ones, as well as software developers, and even data entry is a big one. So there's even the unskilled people here are able to earn quite a decent living through using our site. This is a diagram, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see that all right, of basically the online economy, where the red lines are people posting projects, and the green lines are the freelancers working on them. So you can see a very heavy trend here of a lot of the money coming from America and from Europe and some from Australia, and going into Southeast Asia and this region here. Basically, so this is where all the freelance work's done. There's quite a lot of talent here, and there's a lot of revenue coming into this area through things like our site. Here's a quote from Tom Freeman from New York Times. Basically, he's just saying, these days, you can just, if you've got an idea, so you've got some idea that you want to create a new company to do something, as long as you've got that spark of an idea, you can get it produced, basically. You can go on Amazon, get them to ship it, you can go onto freelancer.com, and they'll do all the work for you. So the one thing that you can't find easily isn't the commodity, is that spark of the idea. So I know a lot of you guys here are the entrepreneurs and the type of people who have those ideas. So you don't necessarily need to find a whiz-bang technical team to work with you locally. You can outsource it. You can get almost anything done through the web these days. So the way freelancer.com works, basically, it's as simple as eBay. We like to think of ourselves as the eBay for the labor market. So you can post a project, doesn't cost anything. Say, hey, I need a logo design for my new company. You'll suddenly, straight away, you'll start getting bids of people saying, hey, I'll do this project for you for $30, $50, dirt cheap. And then you can ask them for samples of their previous work, start chatting with them straight away. And then you can pick one or more of them to work on it for you, set up the payments, and pay them through the site. Basically, I think I covered most of this. You can get pretty much anything done, so it's not necessarily just technical things. You can think of, basically anything you can think of, you can get outsourced. So if there's something that you need done that you just don't have the current skills for in your organization, you don't have to think, oh, no, I need to hire someone. I need to hire someone to package all my goods. I need to do all this sort of stuff. You can just hire someone remotely to do it for you. One of the other things is today, pretty much every business is an internet business. No matter what it is, if it's your a local plumber or whatever, he will have an internet presence. And more so with all you guys, all the startups these days, they're very much internet-based startups, because the internet is a fantastic way of reaching the number of users that previously was impossible to reach. So like Facebook with its now, I don't know, whatever it is, billion plus users, there's no way any other traditional company could reach that many people before the internet. Here's an example. All this stuff's free. So I think we heard yesterday, the guys, was it Franco from Amazon, was talking about how cheap it is to start up a business. So yeah, so all this stuff's free. This stuff's really cheap. Amazon Web Services is a great example where you can set up all your infrastructure for free, basically, until you actually reach the point where you want to deploy, and then it costs dirt cheap as well. We use Amazon Web Services for our infrastructure, and it's made life much, much easier. And even if you don't know about any of these sorts of technologies, you can hire a freelancer to sort it out for you. As I was mentioning, so now with the introduction of the internet and so many people using the internet these days, you're able to reach the number of customers that previously was just completely unthought of. So I'm going to talk a bit about some of these companies. So Twitter reached 350 million users in 6 years. Facebook, this is kind of probably old data, 800 million in 8 years. And then there's some shitty game, Cityville, managed to reach 100 million users in 45 days. How does that happen? I don't know how that happens. It's just, yeah, you think about it, all you need to do is come up with some sort of crazy idea, and you can potentially reach ridiculous numbers of people very, very quickly. And then there's thousands of other examples of this, such as Airbnb, Groupon, Angry Birds, all that sort of stuff. There's many, many more. Pinterest is another great example. You can see the graph here from 2011 when they first started out, and then they managed to take off so dramatically that by early 2012, 2% of the internet traffic was going to Pinterest. Again, just a humongous amount of growth. And these things don't just happen by magic. It's not just some companies magically manage to grow ridiculously and exponentially. They actually have people in these companies thinking about how do they reach these users. Yes, there's billions of people on the internet, but how do you get your product out to those users? So there's a new term that was, well, not really that new anymore, but there's a term that was coined in 2010 called growth hacking. So basically, growth hacking is just talking about how to get, to make these kind of growth that traditionally was not possible. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the term, but it's something that gets thrown around a lot as basically just the new way of thinking about how to reach this ridiculous amount of growth. So what I'm talking about here is purely user acquisition. So there's a lot of other aspects to growing a company, such as monetization and all that sort of stuff. But at this point, I'm just going to talk about user acquisition, as in growth. So growing, reaching those users. To start off, I'm going to talk about a case study. Probably one of the most well-known ones, which is Hotmail. Hotmail, I'm sure everyone here would have heard of it. It's been around for a very long time and has gone through many iterations and is still quite a popular web service. It was first thought up by these couple of guys in 1996 and they got 300,000 of seed funding. So at this stage, it was very, very early stages of the internet. When they first launched, they were basically using very traditional means of marketing. They used billboards, TV ads, radio ads, and their initial growth was very, very minimal. So basically, for you to be able to get a conversion from something like a billboard, you need for someone to be able to see that billboard, which is a very, very small number of people, and for them then to want to go on and sign up to that. These days, you'd hardly ever see a tech company advertise on a billboard. And that's where one of these guys in Hotmail came up with this idea. Like, why are we using billboards to reach these people when we've got people sending emails through our system? So what they did was this guy says, why don't we just advertise ourselves through the emails that people are sending through Hotmail? So they added this little message to the end of each of their emails, basically advertising themselves using their existing users to promote themselves. And straight away, they got huge amounts of traction. They reached thousands of people more than they could have reached previously. And immediately, they started getting 3,000 new users every single day. 6 months later, they reached their 1 million user mark. 5 weeks after that, they had 2 million users. And then after 1.5 years, after they launched, they were able to exit with $400 million, with 12 million users. So this is just an example of how you can think about just how you market your company to be able to grow and at extreme rates. So growth hacking is not a new practice. It's just sort of a new term that was sort of given to this sort of way of thinking. So basically, it's a way of leveraging the existing systems and leveraging information to better promote your product. So examples are SEO, A/B testing, way of doing things like the email, like sending out emails to your existing users, trying to get them to invite their friends. I think all of you would have seen like Candy Crush. with its annoying messages. I'm sure everybody who hasn't used Candy Crush has at least seen at least one of their friends invite them to use it. That sort of thing, just like trying to get those massive amounts of users through using these other networks. So where a growth hacker sort of sits is sort of a cross between marketing, customer development, and data. So using information to do this sort of marketing concept. Here's a few quotes. So a growth hacker is someone who is true north is always growth. A growth hacker is a hybrid of a marketer and a coder. It's the new VP of marketing. Basically, a growth hacker is someone who has the mindset of data, creativity, and curiosity. So the people who are able to think about things in a completely new and interesting ways of using the amount of data that they have to do something which traditional marketers wouldn't have even thought of. So basically, these days, a lot of startups would much better be able to use something like growth hacking rather than the traditional methods of marketing. Trying to add adverts to billboards, radio ads, all of the traditional things that marketers would have thought of doesn't really help your companies as a tech startup. Some of the reasons for this is startups face a lot more uncertainty. They are designed for this kind of growth. You can't really get reach the number of people that you could potentially do with growth hacking like with a traditional marketing strategy. So basically, a growth hacker is really just a marketer, but they just approach it in a completely different way. So the main goal of a growth hacker is to try and find a marketing strategy that will be self-perpetuating. Basically, such as the email, like the Hotmail emailing system, where one user will invite all of every time they send an email, they'll join Hotmail, and then suddenly that person will go out. Every email they send, some of them will join Hotmail, and every email and so on and so forth. And that's how you see some of those exponential type growth that we're seeing in those previous graphs. It's not like there's one of the lines here. It's a process. It's not a secret book of ideas. So it's not like this secret cult of growth hackers that all know how to make exponential growth, and they're not telling anybody. It's also not just out in the open, hey, everyone, you do this and you will reach millions of people in 45 days. It's more of a way of thinking. So you have to think about the data that your system has. It's not like something that if it applies to this product, it will also apply to that. Obviously, if your main business isn't sending out emails, then the Hotmail approach won't work. But you have to think about what will work for you. So what is the data that you have that you can leverage to try and grow, to try and reach more people? And that's basically what growth hacking is all about. I think I covered a lot of this. Basically, so growth hacking is the new VP of marketing. You have to try and think about how you can get the customers for the product. You do this in different ways, such as A/B testing, landing pages, email deliveries, all that sort of stuff. How you can market your product using the technology and the systems that you have. There was a great article about Airbnb's growth hacker who decided to add the post to Craigslist feature. So basically on Airbnb, you can go in there, you can post your listing, and then there's this little button that says post this to Craigslist. Basically, it doesn't have any official affiliation with Craigslist. It just would add manually to their site your listing on Craigslist. Suddenly reaching so many more people, because at that stage, Airbnb had a lot less users than Craigslist did. So by doing this, you're suddenly reaching out to all these extra users, and then they link back to Airbnb for the postings. So it's another way of growing their product quite dramatically, very quickly. Here's a quote from Freelancer.com's CEO, Matt Barry. So basically, the bleeding edge today is growth hacking and data science. It's where statistics, computer science, and marketing meet. Growth hacking quintessentially looks for platforms that provide one-to-many relationships and develop smart ways to harness them quickly. So some way of getting each and every one of your users to connect millions of other users back to your system. Tech companies are quite literally hiring rocket scientists and these really smart statisticians and people to do their marketing for them these days, rather than relying on traditional marketers. Okay, so basically, this is some examples of some of the typical things some growth hackers would try and do to try and leverage that. Basically, SEO, landing page, emails, gamification, ad sales, A/B testing, all this sort of stuff. There's an infinite number of things, and people are always coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing it. So that's why it's not just a book of things that you need to do. It's something that you need to get really intelligent people to think about with your product. So we've actually got quite a large growth team at freelancer.com. Basically, we've got a quantum physicist, mechatronics engineer, software engineers, machine learning experts, mathematicians, statisticians, electrical engineers. Basically, it doesn't really matter what degree they have. It's more about just finding the people who can think outside of the traditional box. People who can think about how they can approach these things in a very unique way, and how they can reach out to all these people. Here's a few examples of some of the things that we do. So basically, freelancer.com relies very heavily on freelancers. Obviously, so if someone searches freelancing or freelancer, we want us to appear very high in the results. It's a very easy way to reach massive amounts of people. Basically, as people have mentioned, Google is the most popular website on the internet. People use it to find whatever they're looking for. So if you can rank highly there, you're going to be able to reach a lot more people. You leverage your existing users. So if you get your users to do things like the Facebook invite or those sorts of things, figure out ways to incentivize them to bring their friends and their family or just random people they know into using your product, and that will definitely grow exponentially. Paid ad campaigns, same thing, reaching more people. Split testing ad campaigns, Facebook campaigns, all those sorts of things. Making sure you're using the data that you have to optimize everything that you're doing to try and get the most number of people as quickly as possible, and it will grow exponentially from there. Here's a bit of the thought process some of these guys go through. So basically, a lot of the stuff they have to think about is how much will it cost per user, and what kind of value will each of those users add to our business. So some of the some of the ways of measuring this is like you can figure out some of these components, how much, so if you're doing something like a paid campaign on Facebook or Google AdWords, you can figure out how much does each ad that you post cost, how many users will that return, how much money will those users make you, and basically if you can get more users than it costs, like if the users are worth more to you than it costs you to get them, then you're making money. It's pretty basic science. There's a lot of different ways of approaching this, as I mentioned, but it's something that you should all be thinking about. As like a lot of you guys are up-and-coming startups, it's not just about creating a fantastic new technology or a fantastic product. You need to be able to get that product out to as many people as you can to be using it to make that profitable. That's basically what I've got to say about that. But while I'm here, I want to talk to you a bit about some of my experiences here as well. So, have I got time? Yeah. All right. So, I know you guys are all keen to go drink mojitos down on the beach, but I promise you I only see a couple more minutes. So as I mentioned, I'm the regional director of engineering for freelancer.com. I've got a very unique perspective of a lot of this sort of stuff. And I know a few of you guys were talking about hiring engineers and setting up office and that sort of thing. So, and a lot of the discussion yesterday was around all that sort of stuff. So on a very different note, so that was about how to grow a business. Before that was about using our site. Now I'll talk about my experience here. So I came across last year and to set up a software engineering office to help build the freelancer.com website. I originally came here with a goal of hiring 20 software engineers in 3 months and going back to Australia. That didn't happen. It wasn't possible. I tried everything I possibly could to make that happen, and it's just wasn't something that was doable. Some of the reasons why was more trying to reach the right developers, trying to find the key person to manage a team provided to be quite a challenge here. So one of the key points, actually I was just in another tech talk upstairs, and one of the things he was mentioning was when you're setting up a team, you really need to find the one key software engineer, the one person with a lot of experience who can then build the rest of your team. That person is going to be the hardest one to find. If you've got one of them already in your team, then that's fantastic. That's great. So some of the other things I think people were talking about yesterday were things like employee retention, trying to find the right software engineers. And I found that some of the key things you need to look for is, especially here in the Philippines, where sometimes I've found that the education system falls a little bit short from my expectations for what I'd want out of a software engineer. So the kind of people that I really look for are the ones with the drive and the passion to learn outside of what they've learned at university. You can't expect to just go to university and then get a fantastic job afterwards without doing anything in between, without actually putting in your own personal effort. So that's one of the key things, trying to find those right people, the ones who want to learn about new technologies, the one who want to push the boundaries of what they've learned and what they can do, and admit that they will never ever know everything and will always see everything as an opportunity to learn. They are the rare gems, and I think that's a lot of the young people I've seen here are definitely fit into that category. I think people have mentioned about the 1% are those kind of really passionate people, and they're the ones who are here today, which is great to see. One of the other things is retention. So I found what really works well for us. We've got the office I've set up here. Everyone has a lot of fun. We've got beer in the fridge and free dinners and Friday lunches and all that sort of stuff, internal hackathons, which make a big difference in the company culture and I think as the last speaker was just saying, treating your employees as valuable members of the team and really respecting them goes a long way. So I've been here for a year now. I've got a team of 35 people and pretty much had zero attrition. I've had one person leave for personal reasons, and that was it. And I can see the guys constantly staying back late and really with a passion to finish their product, not because anyone's cracking a whip, but because they really enjoy what they're doing. I think that's what's sort of important. Hopefully, I know I've sort of covered a few different things here, but thank you very much and enjoy your stay at Boracay.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up the afternoon talk sessions. Let's give a big round of applause to all of the speakers and to all of you guys. Guys, is that a big round of applause? Is that a big round of applause, really? Come on, let's give a big round of applause. There we go. That's better. That's better. All right, we've got a couple minutes left. The two other sessions are running a bit late. They're not as awesome as we are. So we're going to just kind of hang out here, network. There's maybe later, if you guys are lucky. There's some food on the sides and some drinks. Just network and hang out, and we'll be back to finish the program up in a few minutes. Thanks, guys.